start off by drawing a graph of the money market. This is the nominal interest rate. And this is the real GDP. And the aggregate demand and the supply, that's the money demanded, so D sub M, and then this is the money supplied, so S sub M. Alright, and then next to that, we're going to have the loanable funds graph. And this is the real interest rate. And GDP. And this is going to have demand, supply. And this one, the supply curve is vertical. And then over here, we have a DAS graph with downward sloping aggregate demand, upward sloping SRAS, and LRS. So as you can see, since LRAS is to the right of where SRAS and AD intersect, there's a recessionary gap. So we're going to talk about how to close that recessionary gap using monetary policy. Alright, so there's three things that you can do when closing a recessionary gap using monetary policy. One is buying bonds. Now what this does is it increases the money supply. So in this graph right here, the money supplied will actually move over to the right. You'll have a new, called the SM prime, which obviously lowers the interest rate, which is then going to increase investment. And AD is going to eventually slide up right to where it should be, and you close the gap. So that's the first way. The second way is by decreasing the reserve requirement and what this does is it requires that the bank has less in reserves, so the money supply increases again. So you'll see the same thing on this graph, and then AD will shift again. And the last thing is decreasing the discount rate, which will result in the same thing happening. So we call these, all three of these are tools of monetary policy. Alright, and this is all for closing a recessionary gap. So if you wanted to close an expansionary gap, so let's say in our ADAS graph, like this one right here, just going to quickly redraw it. So here we have an expansionary gap, since LRS is to the left of where SRS crosses AD. So to fix this, we'll just reverse all of these tools of monetary policy. So instead of buying bonds, you'll sell bonds, which will in effect move the money supply right here. We'll move it to the left, just like this. Call that supply money double prime, which will then increase interest rates, which will lower investment, which will cause aggregate demand to shift backwards to here. You can also increase the reserve requirement, which would do the same thing to the money supply, and increase the discount rate, which would also do the same thing.